My name is Mark Elliott. I lived with a severe case of Tourette syndrome for 20 years and eventually became an award-winning inspirational speaker, traveling internationally to raise awareness about compassion and Tourette's. What you're about to see will challenge traditional medical knowledge about Tourette syndrome and potentially many other neurological disorders. What you'll witness is an unconventional, safe, new, non-invasive, non-meditative, non-hypnotic, and entirely talk-based therapy that has had a dramatic impact on the lives of a small group of people living with Tourette syndrome. What you're about to see will also challenge another narrative about the group and the person behind this medical breakthrough, NXIVM and Keith Raniere. Currently, Keith Raniere is serving a 120-year prison sentence. NXIVM has been cast by the media and the government as an evil sex cult whose sole purpose was to mistreat people against their will. This film gives people a window into NXIVM and the man behind it that the government doesn't want you to see. In fact, the government threatened to prosecute me for simply sharing my story, which you will soon get to see firsthand. All I want you to do is enjoy this film and carefully review it, as it could offer hope to those who suffer from Tourette syndrome and other disorders like PTSD, anxiety, ADHD, and OCD.
Now, recently I was also in the Atlanta airport in Georgia, and I was in the bathroom stall. I was pooping. Okay, so pooped, gave that one, pooped that. I was pooping in the stall, and I walked out of the stall. In the middle of the restroom, there was a custodian there, standing there just like this, holding his mop, shaking his head at me. And I looked at him and he said to me, "You are not a human being."
It's not a moment, it's a constant numbness that you become used to. If a child breaks the leg, you can fix that. It's a short-term, oh my God, you're hurt, and medicine will fix it. And then it heals, and you go on with a normal life. But with Tourette and OCD, there's no healing. There's the initial break when you find out it happens.
When you're talking about women in the media, that's the constant, isn't it? The whole idea of the female body and the role that the female body plays in our understanding of identity. And so her exploration of identity here becomes this sort of hyper-focus.
Isabella is the most beautiful young lady. I've never heard her say a bad word about anybody. She's just lovable, and I love her to death. She gave me that for Christmas. It's just like the way I looked and the way I did my hair. I couldn't imagine how she got it that perfect.
Isabella is a very energetic person, very creative, incredibly empathetic of others in need. She's always been that way.
I'm just constantly trying to find a good balance, I guess. I guess that relates to my life.
It was hard because I didn't know what she was going through, and you can tell that it was so horrible. Especially when she was younger, it was a lot worse. But it was hard in the way that no one knew what was happening inside of her head.
The first time I remember ticking, I was in 3rd grade, and I was just like in my own little world. I was like reading like my book, and it was like everyone was reading. It was completely silent, like it was every day. And then I felt this tickle in my throat. I said, "Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'll clear my throat." And so it went away, but it wasn't like a sick kind of like, "Oh, I'm getting sick." Oh, it was like different.
Isabella started out actually with, I think, more OCD than tics. And that was just the sensitivity, the tactile issues that seemed to really, really bother her. I think the first time I realized that we had an extreme problem was when I realized that she was going to bed at night with her clothes on because it took her so long to get dressed.
My mom's was like this every time I hit myself, or like I have to punch myself. I can't sit in a chair because my knees might touch the table and my elbows and my chest.
I had to bang my head as hard as I could against any hard surface. If something didn't feel right, I'd have to punish it by hitting it.
She has some of the worst tics I've ever seen. Fortunately, most people with Tourette syndrome don't have tics that cause themselves injury, but she does. If there's one thing that I could give kids who have tics would be resilience. And you know what that means? The ability to say, yeah, my tics are tough, but I'm not going to let them stop me.
I have that.
You do have that. I could tell that.
I always have a grid, kind of. Because with my OCD, I hate angles. With all the sensory stuff, I hate elbows, I hate corners and hangers and edges of tables and stuff like that. So I always keep the lines up and down just because I've been conditioned to hate any sort of diagonal.
Unfortunately, we found out very quickly that as we went from one medication to the next, that the treatments aren't perfect. There aren't even, at that time, there wasn't even a specific medication for Tourette syndrome. It was for a heart condition, it was for high blood pressure, it was for depression.
I just need you to get this phone out.
I can't believe how bad she is this morning. It's very hard. It's hard to watch it.
Mom, sit down. girl tech.
Amen.
That's a little casualty of your situation. You have eggs in your hair. She started kind of going internal and freezing. We didn't know what was going on in her head, but she would just freeze and stop and try to block out all the external sensations. And we didn't recognize it was a tic, and it took us for a while to understand even how to behave around her.
To get from the house to the corner could sometimes take us over an hour because she would walk and then she'd freeze in motion.
All my muscles are tightening, or my toes are clenching, and my fingers are digging into each other like this. And like literally, I have this one where I like crack this finger, and it's bent. You can see that it's bent.
This is the picture I have of a saint that's supposed to cure. And I put it on Isabella, Christina, and everybody that's sick, and all my friends at the center that are sick, and for anybody that has Tourette's or anybody that has any sickness, I pray for them.
Oh boy. It's hard, knowing that I brought a child into this world that has to deal with these challenges.
Okay, we're good. It's done. Okay. I won't even look at it because I don't want it to. Like, people say, like, a lot of people say, like, a painting is never done. Like, no, paintings can definitely be done. Because you don't want to overwork them.
When I was first told I had Tourette's, I was told that it was a neurological disorder, that I had shock sent from my brain and just made my body go crazy. At first started to affect my athletics, and then after that I noticed more, when I became more conscious about my schoolwork, that it was harder for me to focus in class. And even when I was focusing in class, when I get home from school, I'd be exhausted from jerking my head back and forth. I wouldn't want to do homework.
We had hoped this would go away. It didn't go away. And then we went through the process of trying to determine what the hell it was, because I'd never even imagined it was Tourette's. When I think of Tourette's, I think of people yelling F-bombs and all this other stuff they do. And that was never Nick.
It started in his face. His eyes were, we'd open his eyes and close his eyes. He'd squint quite a bit. Started with some audio noises. Really noticed it during sports teams that he had joined, because I think when he got nervous, he started ticking with his face, and the other children were noticing. That's when it hit me the most.
Collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. How did it happen? Okay, so give some explanation. Do some research on that. Okay, find something credible to tell me, why did all of a sudden in '92 the Soviet Union collapse, and all of a sudden we have the Ukraine, we have Uzbekistan, we have Kazakhstan, Georgia, we have all these Soviet republics that now are their own independent nations. What went on there?
Little bit of elementary school and a lot of middle school, I was made fun of, I was bullied, kids tried to put me down because of it. But then the more older, mature I got, the more older and mature other kids got, and they just kind of started to realize that it wasn't my fault. I couldn't help it.
It's hard to see your little brother deal with something that you have no control over at all, other than when he comes home and you give him a pat on the back and tell him it's going to be good.
It's one of these, it's a disease where it doesn't matter how much money or how little money you have it. And there's nothing you can do about it.
It's just like cancer. All you can do is cope with it.
I live in a very well-off part of Scottsdale. I'm lucky. It's always great weather. It gets a little bit warm in the summer, but there's no humidity. It's just dry heat. I work from 3 to 5, Monday through Friday, so just 10 hours a week, nothing big. And then on the weekends, we don't get paid for this, but me and Hannah, my coworker, we help out the shop. It's All Good Nutrition with a bunch of ladies and some men who come work out with us Saturday and Sunday mornings. We help train them and run little boot camps for them to lose weight.
We found the best pediatric doctor who was a neurologist, and he said that he had dealt with 5,000 cases of this in his life. He said it was genetically transferred. You know, he looked at Paula and he said, well, I can see the trait in you.
There you go.
The first treatment was a blood pressure medication to relax him. From there, we went to a few different seizure medications, advanced to Valium and medications like that so he would just be out of it, basically. Nothing worked. The tics got worse. Nick, on his own, started taking himself off of those medications, which was scary in itself.
You take the drugs and they dumb you down, so you're not you. And so it's not what we wanted.
There's been quite a few different treatments that I've tried to help alleviate my mind from twitching or to stop twitching, and it started out with medication. I'd been on, I think, 3 or 4 different medications to try and calm myself down, but besides that, I've done different kinds of chiropractic work. I've been working my body. I've done acupuncture. I've talked to people, like therapist-wise almost, and none of it really seems to do what I need to do.
I lived with Tourette's for about 20 years, and it has been a roller coaster ride of emotions and physical pain. I was diagnosed when I was about 2 years old.
The tics were distracting to him, but the way he beat on himself broke my heart and made me very worried. I was a nervous wreck about that. So we were willing to do whatever, but the medications depressed him so much that we respected that about him, and he really wasn't him. So there was this dilemma of him hurting himself and then being a very happy person because he wasn't on medications, but the Tourette's was constant.
Alex was an unusual child, very intelligent, always remarkably strong, and also a very good athlete. We recognized that early on. And today, Alex is in his 20s and still very, very strong, and impresses us by working with wild animals like wolves and bears.
Oh, they're my best friends. They're my family. I love them. Hop in there and I wrestle around with them. They bite me, I bite them back. And it's a great relationship. What we're doing is kind of like that. I have a passion for it. We educate people. We work with wildlife and we save it. We rehabilitate animals back to sufficient health so we can release them back into the environment.
Alex has always had tics. Alex's tics are severe. He's used to not being allowed in movie theaters, restaurants, many restaurants. People approach him. He feels also as if he's being stared at, which of course he is. And another thing is when we try to watch a movie, this sectional couch will travel halfway across the room, and it's loud, and his tics have been so vocal.
Yeah, I need this right here.
Sense.
Here. Oh, and you good, guys. You have wine. You're driving?
I can have a little glass. Sense.
Good, Grandpa.
See? Little glass.
Sense. Is that a new tic? She was quite young. I think she was in like 2nd or 3rd grade when we started noticing different noises coming from her. Didn't quite know what it was. I think in a small town like us, everybody has to know everybody's business. And I think that's what happened. I mean, you could ask just about anybody in town and they would know who Carissa is because she's the only one in Evansville, Wisconsin that has Tourette's.
We just noticed little things, and I thought it was just something she was doing just to pacify her as a young child. And I remember saying to her, I'd pay her $50 if she quit. Well, that didn't happen.
I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was a bad thing. I just thought that she was different from other people, but I accepted her for who she was, and I thought that it was kind of interesting and cool, and that I kind of wanted to be like her, because she was my older sister. I kind of looked up to her. She was like my idol.
I love reptiles. They're so different. They have attitudes almost. They're sassy, and I guess I feel like they're different too, because I kind of feel different. I don't mind my Tourette's at all. That's one of the nice things about them. Sense.
I proposed to Carissa because she's the most amazing person I've ever met. She's always been good to me, and I love her and care about her more than anybody.
We want to have a specific room for the reptiles, a reptile room when we get a house. Sense.
We'll probably have a kid someday, just to
Add into the different kind of animals. I don't know where I got the snorting tic, but I really don't like that tic at all. And it's terrible because it gets worse when I'm around like police officers. That sounds really bad, but it does. And I hate that fact just because I respect law enforcement so much.
My name's Mark Elliott. I just want to let you know that I have something called Tourette syndrome, and it causes me to make noises and say some things that I can't help. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it bothers you. I promise you, it bothers me more.
Go! All right. Ah! Mark, look at Dad. Mark, what'd you just do?
With Mark's ticking, in the early years, they kind of cycled in and out. I mean, we might hear the for a few weeks, and then that would kind of fade away, and then maybe the eye blinking would come in. And then maybe just as the years went on, he just kind of added more tics to the repertoire.
The tics were loud. Many of them were loud. They were often insults to people. I felt at the time he couldn't really help it because he would say things like, meet a cute girl, and he would say things like, tits, tits.
When I was 16, I was coming out of the closet, and we were from St. Louis, Missouri. There were like no gay people that I knew of. And I came out of the closet, and I was, on a mission to try to raise awareness and to really try to speak out to, increase the level of tolerance and understanding about gay people. Now, I had a younger brother who was wonderful and loving, but would constantly call me faggot. and I go out in public and, this is my brother, and he's faggot, faggot.
Basically how it worked is Mark would walk into a room and he would decide the worst thing you could say, and then he would yell it.
What you're about to experience is nothing you have ever experienced before.
We've seen a lot about Tourette syndrome, and I want to make something very clear about it, okay? It is absolutely crazy.
Not only do I need to educate about Tourette syndrome, I need to educate about people's differences in general.
A teenager traveling to St. Louis was kicked off a bus after an episode with Tourette syndrome. The boy was forced off in Indianapolis, 250 miles away from home. His family says it's clear he was kicked off because of ignorance about his disability.
16-year-old Mark Elliott has Tourette syndrome, a disease, he says, produces a chemical imbalance in the brain that causes him to release excess energy. Sometimes that energy is released through the sudden twitching of his body. Other times he screams or shouts words.
It's a disease that I can't help, and I wish I could control it more.
At the Greyhound bus terminal in Indianapolis, there was one word that Elliott couldn't stop shouting aloud, a word that most everyone finds racially offensive, a word that got him kicked off the bus that was to take him back home to St. Louis.
Earlier in line, a lady had heard me saying some inappropriate words, and she stood up and she said, well, how come he can say this word? I'm talking about the N-word.
There were about 50 people on the bus at the time, many of them African American. When passengers began to complain about hearing Elliott repeat the N-word, the driver, aware of his condition, called the American Disabilities Association.
For the safety and security of all of the passengers and the driver, we decided it was best to let the authorities intervene and remove him from the bus.
When they blur out the wrong racial slurs, I think somebody taught them that, and it's just in them, and they can't help to say it.
It's a compulsion, and in a situation in which this urge to say the word comes out, a patient can suppress that for a short period of time, but not very long, and it compulsively blurts out.
Elliott's father, Bill, spoke with KSDK.
It's heartbreaking. Mark's a very strong kid, and it's one of the first times he said, he told me he cried because he was so shook up by the whole thing.
Mark is a junior at Clayton High School.
I just can't imagine for a teenage kid to be alone like that and to feel like people don't believe you, to feel like you don't have control over your own body. And I think that was the darkest time.
I think a really pertinent thing in high school is learning disabilities. Does anyone have a learning disability here? A couple of you, I would assume more of you probably do. You're just trying to keep that secret inside of you.
When he found the speaking, the motivational speaking, I thought, well, that's great. He's found something that he can do that is helping other people, and that is dealing with what he deals with every day. But it was still all about the Tourette's. His whole life was about the Tourette's.
When he was in high school, Mark was so determined. He was just really determined to get a handle on his Tourette's. And he wanted the doctor to really ramp up this one medication that they thought would work. And Mark tried it for a week or two and got to the point where he couldn't even function. He was so tired and depressed, and it's the only time that Mark ever said something to the effect that he wished he could just die.
I remember the day that he called me and said, bro, I think I can overcome this.
We went to a burger place down in Chelsea in Manhattan. We got burgers. And we were just walking around the city, and he wasn't ticking. And I didn't quite understand it.
He was different. He was absolutely different, and he was not ticking anywhere near I had ever seen him. And I didn't know what to say. I mean, it was it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
And I'm in the office, and I'm in front of the man with the white coat, and this doctor says to me, "You have Tourette syndrome, a neurological genetic disorder that's involuntary and has no cure." So what do you think I did as a little kid? I believed him. And for 20 years later, and for 25 million tics, I lived with Tourette's. So a few years ago in New York City, I started to take these classes called Executive Success Program that was created by a scientist. His name is Keith Raniere, and his protege, Nancy Salzman, and they created tools to help people break those beliefs on an unimaginable level. And because of them, I no longer live with Tourette syndrome.
In the beginning, I didn't know anything about Tourette's. And Mark came to us, and the head trainer, who was very astute, began to notice that there were certain things going on that were affecting his tics and reducing the number of tics he was having and the severity of tics. I had the sense that he had that ability all along because I had been watching him and I had been watching what went on, and I noticed that when he felt more stressed, he behaved one way, and less stressed, he behaved another way. And when he was really, on his game, he wasn't having a lot of vocal tics or any tics. And they were steadily going down. And so I think I had more confidence in his ability than he did at the time.
It was one of the most poignant things that has ever happened to me in my life. The most courageous thing that I think anyone has ever said to me. And long story short, Nancy Salzman, who's the president of ESP, who had worked with me a little bit as I was going through the 16-day, she came up to me the following day after we had a performance where there was a pianist. There was someone, this famous pianist had came in, and I happened to be ticking penis while the person was playing. And I couldn't stop ticking penis throughout this performance. And the next day, Nancy Salzman came up to me and she said to me, can I chat with you? And I said, of course. And she said, I heard that you were ticking a lot last night at the performance. And, I said, yeah, I have Tourette's. This is what I do. It's part of the thing. And I can't remember exactly what she said next, but at some point she said to me, you can stop this. And at that moment in my life, no one had ever said anything like that to me in that way. Now, of course, my initial reaction was, I can't believe you just said that to me. I have Tourette syndrome. I have a medical bracelet that says I can't control this. Like, who are you to tell me that I can't do this? And we kept chatting for a little bit, and I was trying to explain to her she had no idea how hard it was for me. She had no idea what it's like to live in my body, to live and deal with these feelings on the inside. And as I'm saying this to her, she looked around the room, and there was a couple other people in the room, and she said, it's hard for everybody. And it was at that moment that I realized that I wasn't special anymore. That the thing that I never took into account was that everybody struggles. And that everyone is dealing with something, but for some reason I thought that somehow my struggle was more important than other people's struggle. And the next day, it just so happens that there was another pianist playing at the retreat. And during that performance, I challenged myself to not tick. And I went through that whole performance without ticking. And it was the first time in my life that that had ever happened.
I worked with Mark all through the last part of his 16-day training, and at a certain point, Keith Raniere thought it would be a good idea for us to study other people with Tourette's to see if we could have an effect in a consistent way.
It's like driving a car. You know, it's funny that throughout history, we've had all different people with all different types of bodies, all different types of nervous systems, all different types of pluses and minuses. So if you have a person that has some predisposition or something that you might call Tourette's or whatever, that's hardwired in genetically and maybe reinforced by nurture, so you have this firmware complex. The question is, can the person consciously learn to program it so they can have what they want in the world? And to give the person a type of not only awareness, but a type of mastery over their vehicle. If we can truly do that, it's wonderful.
All I know is that one day I got a phone call from a really good friend, and he said, "You will not believe it." And this is a friend that's an ESP, and he said, someone has decided to put up a lot of money to see if that we can recreate what's happened to you.
I'm really grateful to have met Mark and have been accepted to this program, because this is what we've been waiting for since I was like 8 years old.
When we Skyped and he told me I had to come to Albany, I was thinking Albany, Wisconsin. Albany, Wisconsin's 45 minutes from me. I was like, oh, that's perfect. And he was like, no, Albany, New York.
May I have your attention, please?
You made it. Hey, can you believe it?
No. It doesn't feel real. It feels like this day was never supposed to actually happen, even though I signed up for it. It was like never supposed to happen. It was just going to be something that was always months away.
It's funny how things work out like that, huh?
What it felt like.
Hi. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Isabella, nice
to meet you.
What Keith Raniere and I have been doing since we got together 16 years ago was to see if we could get reproducible, consistent, verifiable, quantifiable results, because that's what makes something a science. So I'm always looking for, can we create consistency? So in the Tourette study, for me, my objective was to get results with 5 people and then try to teach it to someone else. So that's my plan.
Mark is the first person who ever called me a bitch. Multiple times, over and over and over. In that first month. No, it's sort of like not as a result of Tourette, but
No, as a result of the Tourette's. It was like I was ticking bitch.
He was ticking bitch.
You had to be there.
It was one of those.
And so I went to those 2 trainings, and I walked out of that training, and my Tourette's was down 90%.
Do you have any fear?
About losing it? No, that's all I've ever wanted.
Okay.
Tourette's is a very difficult condition, and they have to protect themselves. In order to be involved in something that we do, especially since it's only case studies, they have to be willing to take a tremendous risk. They have to be willing to drop their guard and involve themselves in something that's new and different.
Hi.
I'm Nancy. When I meet with someone who has Tourette's, each person is an individual. So although the manifestation is called Tourette's, some people have more motor tics, some people have more vocal tics, some people have a combination. There are a series of different psychodynamic issues in each individual.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Nancy.
I'm Carissa.
So nice to meet you.
meet you too.
This is Karen.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
I don't think I have expectations of right now of everything, just because I don't quite know what's going to be going on. But I'm really hopeful that they'll be able to help me with my tics.
You can put this on your head. Each little thing will put gel inside of here, and then electrodes that connect to each one. And then we connect it to that box, which then connects to the computer. And then that's how we'll measure your brain waves.
So why do you need to have gel?
It's a conductant material.
Oh, okay.
So the electrodes can pick up the signals from your brain.
So you feel like somehow if people understand something about you, it changes things.
Yeah, because understanding of anything changes everything.
How?
I don't know if...
I ask a lot of questions.
I talk a lot.
It's okay, you can talk. We don't use any drugs. The only thing that we use is a talk approach. I listen to where I think that their beliefs are limited, and I work with their beliefs so that they have a more reality-based way of thinking about what's going on for them. And then I look at the stimulus response patterns that they have, and I systematically go for the stimulus response patterns and disconnect them. The thing that our technology does very, very well and very consistently is it disconnects stimulus response patterns. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a little sister. She's 16.
So she was a baby then?
Yeah. She was really little. She doesn't really remember it. She's used to my noises. She can block them out, but my parents can't.
When you say it feels like I need to blink, what do you mean? Just like it feels what?
Like when my eyes get dry and I blink, it's not like a different feeling than that.
It's not? But then sometimes you really...
I just push it, yeah.
Yeah. How do you know when to do that? Do you have any concerns about today?
Concerns? Well, I mean, the other day I was thinking that, it might not work.
Is that your concern?
Yeah. So.
So you have...
Just don't... I want to see what the outcome is. Try my hardest.
The whole part of outcomes is you can't figure out what they are till you go through the process, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were thinking it might not work. And when you were thinking it might not work, so I'm going to just ask you a bunch of questions. So this is what happens. I'm going to do something like an exploration with you. It's called an exploration of meaning. So I'm going to ask you what you mean by certain things, because a lot of times if there's an inconsistency in meaning, it causes the issues that limit us. So what I'm going to do is try to help you feel less limited.
We deal with things like detokenizing things that are tokenized. So although we may not have the specifics of the emotional, physical complex that has been tokenized, we use the same procedure to detokenize it. So no two people are the same, but the same technique applies to all people because it's a human technique as opposed to a person-specific technique.
When did your symptoms start? How old were you?
7.
7? When I met Isabella, she had Tourette's, and she had a lot of obsessive-compulsive disorder with the Tourette's, which is something I saw OCD patterns in everyone, I think, who had Tourette's, but Isabella's was the worst. So in addition to her Tourette's, the OCD was very limiting for her. She had certain patterns that were a combination of Tourette's and OCD that I hadn't seen in anyone, where she had superstitions, I called them, of how she had to behave in order for the tic to be ended. Baseline tic, build, relief. What happens if the baseline happens and you can't, it sounds like sometimes you can't build. Is that what you said?
Depending.
What happens? I'm sorry to ask about them because I think I caused them, or I help you.
There's so much going on that I can't do things and tick at the same time. So when I can, I try to finish the ticks, and sometimes I try to tick and do the things I need to for this job. the same time, but it doesn't work. So I'll spend hours trying to finish one tick that I started 3 hours before.
You have to finish the tick.
Yeah, they don't just happen for me. Like, they build up, or they like, not, if I had like a touch on my arm, it may not get rid of the feeling, so I have to try again. But then there's like patterns, so like, you know, I have to like walk a few steps, and then, but if a tick happens, like I have to stop or continue depending on the tick. Because things are a process, things have to keep going, and ticks aren't good enough reason to go back. So if I'm walking, I have to find a reason to keep going, or find a reason to go back, because I can't just turn around and go back to that step in the sidewalk.
So if I stepped on a crack, is that a crack rule?
If I do, but like recently, or maybe not recently, maybe I just don't remember another time it's happened. I worked with Nancy today, and it was a little frustrating because I kept trying to give her answers, but I didn't know the answers. Yeah, the freezing and the ticks, it's all so impractical, and I know that, but I think I'm getting into the mindset where it's easier to control that, or to not let that control me. So we looked at some things from when the tics started to get bad, and which was in 5th grade when I started a new school and all the stress started happening. And we looked at how that might have related to my tics and caused certain need for control or need for whatever, and different needs to fix things. And that was a really good day. And yesterday was good. I mean, I've been doing well. I've been doing a lot better, for sure. I think it's just a little frustrating knowing your state of mind has kind of betrayed you, I guess. I mean, I feel like I always felt that my body betrayed me when I was 7, and I never forgave it. But I realized it might have been my mind. And that's tough, because that's what I know. That's how I think. That's how I see things. I'm trying to avoid pain and uncomfortability. That's what I'm always trying to do. I know that. Who wants to be uncomfortable? But obviously it's a part of life. And I'm trying to accept it. I feel better today. I feel more in charge. And I still am feeling the urges, but they seem to be less intense. And I'm trying to break the patterns and at least not react to the urges in the way that I was. It was a tough day, but it was a good one. I had an integration kind of session with Nancy. We kind of went in circles for a while, which isn't good. But tomorrow will be better. I don't know, last night I was at dinner and I was doing really well, like really well. And I was like breaking rules and all this stuff, and I was thinking like, can I say I have Tourette's anymore? I was wondering. And honestly, today I don't know if I can. Maybe just a bunch of little bad habits I have to break. But it's still kind of scary. Kind of discovered or admitted in a way that, you know, it's scary thinking about giving up the Tourette's. My Tourette's. You know? It's just it was a scary thought. Not identifying with it anymore, meeting new people or seeing old people and not having them either know how I've changed or know what I've been through. And that was scary. Yeah, and I talked with my dad last night for like 20 minutes. I really hadn't talked to him the whole time I've been here. And it was really good. He called my mom. He said, it's really great having such a fluid conversation with her. No freezing, no stopping at the talking, no, none of that. Yeah. So I've been able to be talking, like, fluidly, which is good. No freezing. I get things done a lot faster. I probably go to bed before 4. On a scale of 1 to 10, my OCD was definitely 10 or 12, not 11. Even numbers. Sorry. And now, I'd say maybe a 1 or 2. A lot better. Probably a 1. Because, you know, it doesn't need to be even. Once in a while, I'll do another tic, but not consistently enough to say that I do those tics. And I don't think I would feel comfortable telling anyone from now on that I have Tourette's.
So why don't you tell me your history of Tourette's? I'm going to take some notes. Like, when did it start? What do you remember, or what have you been told?
From what I remember, it started when I was around 7 or 8 years old.
Can you tell me about it?
The first time I remember ticking, I was in the back of my parents' car and I would swing my head back. So it would hit my shoulders almost. And my parents would tell me to stop because I'd give myself whiplash. Sense.
What's the worst?
My worst tic?
Yeah, yeah.
That I think is this sticking my tongue out. I hate that one.
Why?
Because people stare most. It's most noticeable. But I guess pain-wise would be my neck one that I hate the most too. But I only hate that one because it's painful. I wake up in the morning and my neck is sore.
So the worst tic that you have is the most painful one, is that one?
Yes.
Do you know what the impulse is? Do you know what the stimulus that causes that one is? Can you break it apart? Like, do you know what
urge?
You know what the urge feels like?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I'm like 11, if I'm you in this situation. So I'm 11 years old, I'm in class, and I have Tourette's, and I'm making it an animal sound. And my teacher says, this is distracting everybody. Do something else. And you did.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because basically what your teacher is telling you is that you can not do one thing, but she's also telling you that if you do something else, that will make it better. If you say, I could create a new tic to not do a vocal tic. And I said, tell me about that. You said, I would make sure it was more intense and more painful. And I said, more intense and more painful. And you said, yeah, it feels better than what I say. So actually what you're doing is not indulging that tic. You're doing something else.
Okay, yeah. To get rid of that tic completely.
You did get rid of that tic completely.
Yeah.
Because you did something else.
So if I could do something else besides finding a different tic to get rid of them.
The urges go away.
Okay.
And actually you do it at times.
Sense.
When you want to not make a problem or whatever, you do not indulge certain urges and distract yourself doing something else.
Makes you feel like I need to do it? It's the pressure?
Well, you're ramping it up.
What?
Well, if I have a little urge and I focus on it, it becomes a bigger urge. And then if I focus on it more, it becomes a bigger urge. Focus on it more, it becomes a bigger urge. It doesn't just happen. I'm actually increasing it by focusing on it.
So if I don't focus on...
Well, like, if I say to you, feel your big toe, the big toe of your right foot, can you feel it?
Yes.
If I say really focus on, do you feel it a lot more?
No.
Were you feeling it a minute ago before I said anything about it?
No.
Don't focus on your the right big toe. Don't even think about it. What happens?
I'm thinking about it. Okay.
Okay, now you said you had this feeling here. How does it feel now?
I can feel it, but it's not as strong. There isn't the urge to tick. There is, but I can control it.
Does it feel different?
Yeah. There's not as much pressure pushing up. Like, if I put it in numbers before, it was like 95% of the pressure is trying to push up, but now there's barely any. I guess my other tics, I didn't even notice that. I still feel the urges, but
less so.
Very much less.
We can do more work, but that was very good for today. Very good work. You did great work.
That's incredible. I really did not think that was gonna work at all. We talked a lot about school, high school, a lot about my old friends and everything. And in the midst of talking about all this, the tics stopped. I still have the urges, but they're not as strong, and I can control them, which is weird. I've never had this much control over my tics, ever. And some of my tics I don't even have the urges for anymore, which feels really weird. There are so many dreams I gave up because I had Tourette's. Like, I had my heart set on being a kindergarten teacher during high school until I realized I can't teach kindergarten making all these noises. So I gave up that. You know, I never thought I could become a police officer with Tourette's. I kind of gave up that, which I found out I didn't want to do anyway, so that's okay. But I feel like I'll be able to, anything I feel like doing, I can just kind of go out and do now, and it's gonna be okay because I don't have to worry about other people staring at me or being like, oh, you know, you're disruptive, you're distracting. I can just blend in with a crowd, just be another person in the world.
I grew up with Tourette's, and you know, I saw myself as the kid with Tourette's. After working with Nancy, it was awkward at first. I felt like I lost a big part of me. We talked for a while, and then I really don't know, but there's a certain point of having this conversation with Nancy, I just stopped. And I just really, I felt this huge wave of relief. And we just opened up, and the biggest part of this is just opening yourself up.
When he first got back from this adventure, I call it, and we sat talking for 3 minutes without tics, I was amazed. For 5 minutes without tics, for 15 minutes without tics, I was ready to break open a bottle of champagne. And I just stared at him, and I had to pinch myself. It has not connected yet.
I was going to say, I'm a results-oriented, data-driven guy. I believe in the evidence, and the evidence is very clear. Alex went away for a few days and came back, and his tics had been greatly reduced, and it didn't involve any particular type of medicine or anything like that at all. So I'm just terribly impressed and very grateful.
Growing up, I had a whole bunch of feelings that I didn't understand, and so I ticked, I moved. To the point where I was sweating, I didn't want to feel those. And so now, after all these years of ticking and burying down those feelings, imagine 20 years of just not really feeling your body, and now just being able to sit still and feeling everything that your body could feel. It's amazing. Sunday morning rain is falling. Still some color shades on skin.
Andrew, Eric, Adam, Ariana, Lindsay, Samantha, Nick, Olivia, Andre, Francesca.
When he got off that airplane and he just walked over to me, and he wasn't moving his head, and he was smiling and his arms weren't flailing, and that was very emotional for me. I thought, well, maybe this is just for the day. And it wasn't just for the day. And then 3 days went by and a week went by, and he wasn't taking his naps anymore, and he wasn't having any headaches, and he was so happy. And so, I mean, to me, I thought, wow, they're gone. He's a different person.
The first time I saw him afterwards, I never saw him tick once. To watch the improvement, to watch what he's turning into today, it's a dream.
When I came back at the end of the summer, I tell people I don't have Tourette's or I don't twitch anymore, because I don't. The tic I get in reaction to the Tourette's is optional to me now.
Other things have changed since Nick's been back from Albany. Obviously, the motor tics have basically gone away. His headaches are gone. But another thing that's happened to Nick is his confidence has increased dramatically. His grades are all A's and B's, and his sophomore and junior year in high school, he was barely making it through.
The big difference in the ESP training for Nick versus what we had done in the past is that he was forced to take responsibility for dealing with the problem himself. He was no longer putting himself in my hands or his mom's hands or the doctor's hands and saying, fix me. He was now saying, I'm the only guy that can fix me.
What took place between Nancy and I when I would go in and throughout the first day be down almost 70% of my Tourette's, it was a conversation. She broke issues that I thought I had in my life down to such basic levels that they didn't seem like issues anymore. And then through this stress, the stressful environment that I had in my life slowly became less and less, because I realized that all these stressful situations that were connected to me trying to twitch and fight off whatever uncomfortable feeling I got, they were just feelings.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
So did you try any kind of new kind of food while you were there?
I tried sushi. Like,
actually like tried it, like gave it a chance.
It's nasty. I did that once. It's regrettable.
I know, I regretted it too. Definitely not a sushi fan, no.
Me neither.
No, I don't like avocados either.
Never tried an avocado, but
See, I decided I should be open while I'm there. I was like, okay, I'm already pushing limitations. Why not just go full blown? So I tried sushi. Not my best decision. But I did try tofu. It's not that bad.
I don't believe you. I was very surprised how well it worked.
Me too. I really was. I was really happy it worked, but I was shocked at how well it worked.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna come home ticking. Everyone's gonna be disappointed. It's gonna suck. Just really glad it worked. My turn, Mom. I don't get the Mom. Oh, man. Come on, Mom. So good to see everyone. Yeah. Oh, hi, Dixie. Oh, you want to get kisses? And then we got to Chicago. And did you see the pretty lights?
Yeah,
there's that.
That was awesome.
Yeah, there's like, it's like an escalator, but it's flat and it just moves. And then there's these lights above that are all like wiggly colored lights.
She told me yesterday that, now she can do anything she wants. Before, she didn't think she could. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna tear up. So exciting. And so what comes next is what I'm really excited for her.
Well, I'm very proud of her. And, this is a very big deal. Both of us, she didn't mean to tick and I didn't mean to get irritated sometimes, it's a tough thing. So.
I was 8 when I started ticking. So the doctor's saying, there's nothing we can do about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the best you can. That's what I assumed would, that's all I could do for myself was just continue ticking.
Today, supposed to be the last day I'm on meds. Ever. It just feels like a divide. My life on meds, my life off of them. It's like scary to. It just kind of gives me kind of a sense of time and how much there is. Maybe how much I feel like I've wasted.
It was like a fairy tale that we were in, that a bad witch put a spell on her when she was, 8 years old, and we've reached the other end. She turned 21, the spell was lifted.
It's magical to see her right now. I have no hint of any of either disorder, the Tourette or the OCD. She's behaving as anyone.
And next, she'll make Tourette's disappear.
What are the differences you notice?
I notice when you talk, you're not twitching, you're not shaking your head, you're not doing any of the things that used to bother me, You know how I am.
What else?
And I can just see. I mean, in your face, in your attitude. It's just, how can I say? Thank you, dear God, and for the people that are helping you, that is doing this.
I mean, I can't say it's been easy. been very hard and very worth it. But it was very hard and it was a struggle, and I judged myself a lot for still ticking or not being where I wanted to be.
Dinner last night with Isabella was such a pleasure. She engaged, she laughed, she didn't tick. We forgot that that was ever part of our lives. I mean, that's how I felt.
And in the last 8 months, she's come back to us whole. And she is no longer on medication. She no longer takes medication for her Tourette's and OCD. But that means she has a chance for her body to recover healthy, to get those toxins out of her system. We never imagined that would happen.
The outcome of this study could impact so many people, not just the couple 100,000 people with Tourette syndrome, but I think for a much larger number of people who have OCD.
To go against what is common wisdom, to go against what is common treatments, and do something that seems so benign. It's scary because if it works, as I said, it's almost scarier if it works, because then it raises questions. And our society doesn't do so well with questions. They like answers a lot better. You know, questions like, okay, what is the nature of Tourette's? How could you do something that's essentially a talk therapy that changes a condition like this so dramatically? Is the condition real, some people will say? Are the medications just fake? I mean, it questions all of these things. And unfortunately, it doesn't really question these things, but those questions will be asked. Really, what the question is, does this sort of thing help an individual?
And if you met any of the 5 of us now, never once, I think, would you say, oh my God, look, that person has Tourette syndrome. These people's lives are transformed. I mean, they have a whole new life. And that in itself is amazing.
I know that this is just a study. I know that, you know, we've worked with 5 people, and I know that, you know, isn't the whole world. But I'm optimistic about getting in there and really doing this and finding out, you know, what challenges are out there that I haven't yet come in contact with, and learning, you know, what the model can do.
I don't think we have the solution. I think we have a solution. I don't think our solution works for everyone. Obviously, has worked for some. Now, the question does remain, can anyone do this besides Nancy, because only Nancy has done this? But considering she's using the tools the way we do, I believe those results are reproducible. But that would require, of course, more participants and working on a broader level, which we intend to do, but it will take time.
Tell me, say one thing Nancy can't understand. One thing Nancy can't understand. What make them a talk about me ambition? Say what make them a talk about me ambition? Come and say some of them a ask me where me get it from. Just some of them a ask me where me get it from. I told them no, no, it's from creation. I told them no, no, it's from creation. Bam, bam, hey yo, what a bam, 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 dilang, bam, 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 dilang, bam, bam, hey, what a bam, bam, ta what a bam. Tell 'em, me born and me grow in a Princeton 6. I not see right the Christmas lyrics. When you hear them, you sound like Christy Biscuits. You come in at the place and me say, well, slick. Hip bum bum, hey yo. Ta-wa-ta, bam bam, bam bam bilang, bam bam, bam bam bilang, bam bam, hey yo. Ta-wa-ta, bam bam, hey yo. Say what-ta, bam bam. That's some of them a say me want come and shop them plan. I told them no me a one business woman. Sister Nancy she a 1 in a 3 million. Sister Nancy she a 1 in a 3 million. So bam bam, say what time bam bam, bam bam dilang, bam bam, bam bam dilang, bam bam. Hey, say go Sister Nancy make you go. I tell you say fi go Sister Nancy make you go. I know it from me head straight down to my toes. I teach her down, Sister Nancy and the go. And some of them a ask her, Sister Nancy make your bad song. Long down the list, Sister Nancy make your bad song. He bam bam, what a bam bam. He bam bam dilang, bam bam. He bam bam dilang, bam bam. What a bam bam. Hey, tell me say what a bam bam. I never trouble no one. I'm a lady